What up, everybody? It's Rob Brandt.
And this is Rick Brandt, and we are the Brothers Brandt.
Welcome back. Episode 106 of the Brothers Brandt podcast, Golf and Beer in beautiful Colorado.
Rob, this podcast episode is part one of a four-part Rocky Mountain series where we document our 2018 weekend getaway to the Rocky Mountains. Denver, Colorado area was the site of this trip. And we mixed in not just sporting events, but we mixed in our all-time favorite musical artist at arguably the greatest venue to watch a musical performance at. And this, Rob, was all in lieu of your birthday. You were turning 28 years that year in May. And in celebration of it, we decided to put together quite a journey that we would do in the fall. So this is a September trip that you and I took back in 2018. And for all the listeners out there, this is the epitome of planning, coming prepared, bringing a ton of positive energy, and making memories that will last a lifetime.
I agree, Rick. And this was unbelievable birthday, 28 trips around the sun. And, I can't thank you enough for putting this together. I was truly blown away. I remember sitting at Tommy's in Seabright and you giving me the gift, and you made these fake tickets that had tickets to the Rockies game, Colorado State game, Broncos game, and then Red Rocks ticket. And that was so cool, so memorable, so well thought out, and so special.
That's what we do. We make memories happen, Ron. We make it special, not just for ourselves.
And I think in this episode, it's going to be really cool for the listeners to hear, again, how we crash with friends along the way. Shout out to the Keens, letting us stay at their place. Shout out to Carolyn Selheim, letting us crash there. So really amazing trip. And I would rank this Colorado trip with the shenanigans that we pulled off at the Bronco game and leading up to the Bronco game. I would rank this as number 2 greatest story we've ever told behind the Super Bowl media day.
Yeah, I don't know, Rob, if you're going to find a better podcast story over the next 4 episodes of the Brothers Brandt podcast out there. I mean, what we did, you couldn't write it. You couldn't even imagine it happening, and you definitely could not duplicate it anywhere else. This is a once in a lifetime thing that took place, and just kudos to you, kudos to us for making it happen. Let's give a little backstory here for all the listeners out there. We talk sports all the time. We also love going to concerts, anything live. That's really the premise for the Brothers Brandt podcast, encouraging those you love to get together and go to live sporting events or concerts. It's just something you can't replace, those memories, that feeling of being in a packed stadium. It's really cool. And so OAR of a Revolution from Rockville, Maryland.
Maryland in the house.
Hands down our favorite band. We've listened to them religiously since we were young. We've been to dozens of their concerts. We may or may not have crashed a few OAR backstage passes before. And really just Jerry, the boys, Mark, they're fantastic, okay? And we've always listened to their music, and they came out with a live album about a decade ago now that was called Live at Red Rocks. And we just fell in love with that album. I remember the day you introduced it to me, and I think I just played it on repeat for the next 8 years in a row. And I love it. I love it. To this day, I still listen to that show. And I said to myself, and I know
got to be their greatest album.
I think so. The one at Madison Square Garden is really good as well. But Rob, you and I for a long time would say to each other, if OAR ever performs at Red Rocks, which is our favorite band, back at this live venue, which is an outdoor amphitheater, for all of you listeners out there, definitely put Red Rocks on your list of venues to check out. Even if it's not for a show and you just happen to be in the Colorado area, check out Red Rocks. It's beautiful. It's a natural setting. It's this theater built inside of these rock walls. People spend their days hiking there, relaxing there. And it's a special place. Anybody in the musical world has performed there, the Beatles, you name it. And so we said to ourselves, let's go see our favorite band at one of the most iconic venues in the world. And that's what we did, Rob. We found the opportunity for OAR to be performing there in 2018 in September. And then the sports side of things just fell into place. I mean, think about this. OAR is playing on a Sunday night at Red Rocks. Well, what are the odds that the Denver Broncos have a noon kickoff in Denver? Something that we could go see the Broncos at beforehand in the afternoon and still have plenty of time to get over for the show. And then Colorado State, not too far from Denver, Colorado, has a football game at one of its newest stadiums in the college ranks. It's a brand new, beautiful, gorgeous stadium that we'll get into in the next couple episodes. On top of that, Friday night, the Colorado Rockies are playing a home game, and we decided we'd join them for that game and a little batting practice, which we'll get into in the next podcast episode. But, Rob, we want to lay the groundwork here because we also got to town and did some local fun activities. Take it away.
Yeah, we went to, so that's what this episode's about, is we got into town. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? We got into
I believe it was a Wednesday we got into town.
Yeah.
We crashed with our friend Carolyn and her husband. And then we got up early the next morning on a Thursday for one of the first tee times of the day at
Fossil Trace. And Fossil Trace is a golf course just outside of Denver, Colorado. And Rick did some research here. This golf course opened in 2003 out in Golden, Colorado, which is also where Coors Brewing is headquartered. And we piggybacked that golf trip to Golden, Colorado to go to the Coors Brewing location as well. What makes Fossil Trace Golf Club so unique is that 64 million years ago, dinosaurs, Triceratops footprints walked where holes 11 and 15 sit. So there's so many amazing holes with fossil viewing center adjacent to the 12th green. So on the 12th green, there's actually a fossil viewing center right next to it. And then what's really crazy is that when you're going down the fairway, if you Google it, if you look up Fossil Trace, you'll see that going down the fairway, instead of worrying about bunkers and hills and trees, you got bunkers, you do have some trees out there, but they actually have these huge rocks just jutting out like 20 feet in the air that are dead center of the fairway. Kind of makes you feel like you're playing like a video game with the golf. And then they had this one tee shot, Rick. I remember it was an elevated tee. So, and the air is so thin in Colorado that it felt like, and I'm not very good at golf, breaking 100 is fantastic for me, but I felt like I hit the ball a mile because of how elevated it was and how thin the air was. So such an amazing golf trip. Little mix up there. Thought I lost my cell phone. Found out we had that the whole time. So a little.
You hadn't even been drinking yet, Rob. For the listeners out there, Rob goes into a panic thinking that he's lost his cell phone on the course. And we're not at the first hole, folks. We're like on the back 9. And Rob's thinking to himself, where could it be? Could it be anywhere on this golf course? He put it on silent, he said, because he just wanted to enjoy the day, no interruptions. So we're playing with a group of 2 other guys, very nice men, and the 4 of us are just having a great time. We had to break to the news to them that we may have left our phone back somewhere and we got to go look for it. So we said peace, and we got in our cart and we were going the opposite way of everybody playing on the golf course.
So chaotic. So we were in fairways. We were like, excuse me, sorry about that. Coming to the fairway, trying to find the cell phone.
Classic.
And we probably go back like 3 holes, 2 or 3 holes. And then Rick just goes, Rob, let me search your bag. And you know what? It was a rented bag. It wasn't my bag. I didn't know where all the pockets were. And, there's tons of pockets on these golf bags. There's so many zigzags back and forth, secret compartments.
To your defense, Rob, I gotta say, some of these golf bags looks like Michael Jackson jackets with all these zippers on
them. Yeah. So thank you. And ends up being in there, and I look like an idiot. I'm like, oh my God, I just didn't search this thorough enough. And so then we speed back up and we meet up with these two guys that we were playing with earlier, and all was fine. But I bought a golf bag the other day, Rick, and I was just like mesmerized by how many zippers were on this one. And it just instant flashback to Fossil Trace. I was just like, all right, remember where you put your cell phone in this one.
I mean, come on now. Here we go. All good. It was a great time, a hilarious start to the whole trip. And we had a wonderful time. The course, as you mentioned before, Rob, is just, it's just so beautiful and unique. You won't find this type of course really anywhere else. So all you golf listeners out there, definitely try to get to Fossils Trace in Golden, Colorado, which, as you also mentioned, Rob, is right around the corner from the Coors Brewery factory. Talk to our listeners a little bit about the history of the Coors Brewery factory and the tour that we went on that day.
Yeah, absolutely. So Coors Brewing is in Golden, Colorado, and it has been there since the late 1800s. There was actually a family, Adolf Coors and another guy that moved to the United States from Germany in late 1800s, and they settled up shop in Golden, Colorado, and have just stayed there ever since. And it's the world's largest one-site brewing factory, meaning that there's so many different brands and bottles that that Coors produces, and it's all right there. You like Blue Moon, you like Coors Light. Rick, how many other beers do they have?
Rob, they've got dozens of different types of beers. You've got Keystone Light. I mean, just all of the ones that you can think of, for the most part, are involved with Coors, and it's right there in Golden, Colorado. They have this beautiful, quaint little downtown, takes you back in time, and going in the month of September is really ideal weather-wise. So on our first day of the trip, as we mentioned, we're getting into town, we're crashing with a friend, we're doing a little local golf, we're doing a little local sightseeing at the Coors Brewery factory, and we're really gearing up for what would become a legendary weekend starting on Friday. And that's where this podcast episode will end, and we'll pick up with episode 107 on the next episode of the Brothers Brandt podcast. For all you listeners out there, this is Rick Brandt.
And I'm Rob Brandt. Thanks for listening.